For justice and peace and equality.
All right, Game Changers Magazine, Game Changers Media Network, Voices of the Village podcast, where change starts with conversation. And today we have a very special guest, actor, musician, survivor.
Yeah.
Survivor. Come on, man.
Yeah, man.
Come on, man.
For sure, man.
Mr. Tray Chaney, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, Dre, I'm happy to be on here, man. Yeah, we doing the best we can right now, man, but any day above ground, you know what I'm saying, is a blessing, you know.
Life after the storm.
Yeah, life after the storm. Well, let me just take it back to that day.
Okay.
So May 29th, 2025, right?
Right.
We wake up, me and my son Malachi.
Right.
My wife, she went to work.
Okay.
But that day was special because we actually had a huge interview set up with Big Tigger, V103.
Right.
Big Tigger Morning Show, Jazzy McBee, V103, and it was me, Snoop from The Wire, and my son, Malachi Chaney, because I've been on a national press run with The Wire turning 23 years old this year.
Okay.
So, you know, me and Malachi, he was very excited to go and accompany me with doing press, because I've been taking him on press runs since he was a baby.
Okay.
You know, so he's used to that type of lifestyle and different things that I've introduced him to as far as the movie business and show business.
Right.
So we go to V103 that morning at maybe like 11 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And it's me, Malachi, Snoop. We see Tigger. I'm showing Tigger pictures from when, you know, he had pictures with my son when my son was like 5 years old,
right.
to now. So everybody was just, it was a beautiful morning, you know, It was a great day. So we did the interview, and after the interview was up, maybe like around 12, 1 o'clock,
right.
Malachi said, "Dad, let's go get something to eat. I want to go get me a sandwich from Jimmy John's." That's where he used to work at.
Okay.
So he wanted to just see some of his old co-workers that he hadn't seen in a while since he's been in college. He goes to Savannah State University.
All right.
So we went there. We got something to eat. Went home, and the plan for that weekend was to fly to D.C. because my niece Demi Stevenson she graduated high school and she was throwing a big party.
Right.
On that Saturday, which was the 31st.
Okay.
Which would have been May 31st.
Okay.
And then Malachi's birthday is June 1st. So right after the party in D.C., we were going to do something special for Malachi that Sunday, which was June 1st. So about 2:45, 3 o'clock, I just remember Malachi, me and him always sharing laughs, and he's showing me stuff on his phone.
Okay.
And he said, "Dad, I'm a go in my room and play my game."
Right.
He like, "I know you get ready to go pack, and I'm already packed up because we was going to leave that next morning."
Oh, wow.
So, you know, that day, you know, once he goes in his room, I said, "All right, well, I'm going to go in the room. I'm going to just finish packing."
Right.
And I guess this had to be around, like I said, 2:45, 3 o'clock. I sit on the edge of my bed, and it was raining.
Wow, yeah.
And, you know, it was just like...
And it came out of nowhere, really.
Yeah, it was just raining, you know, raining regular, and the wind started blowing, you know, and it was just... It felt like it was regular until the wind started to not sound like the wind.
The wind, yeah.
You know, the rain started to come down as if it was and this might sound crazy, but as if it was a train in my house.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it sounded like it was like a Mack truck or a train inside of my house. And then I was on my phone, and before you know it, I started seeing my walls fly towards my face. I seen my walls fly towards my face. I seen my TVs, flat screens that I had in my room.
Okay.
Fly towards my face, and the room was spinning, and next thing you know, I levitated in the air.
Wow. With
my bed, and that's
where was your wife during this time?
My wife was at work.
Okay.
My wife wasn't inside the house. Only people that was inside the house, just to make that clear, was me and my son.
Okay.
And you know, once I levitated in the air, I must have been unconscious because I don't remember anything except waking up, wrapped in sheets, my face in the mud.
Right.
And I thought I was suffocating. I don't know. It was just a feeling of being trapped, you know. And I guess now that I look back, the sheets being wrapped around me as the tornado was going was because I was sitting on the edge of the bed. I do remember when all of the walls and the stuff was flying at me, I remember covering up like this. And then I remember going up with my bed in the air.
Wow.
So once I, like I said, once I was down on the ground facing the mud, I'm spitting out whatever out of my mouth, mud or whatever. And then when I was finally able to get the sheet off of my head,
Okay.
it was, my roof was gone.
Now, as you're looking and you're seeing all this going on, what do you think about Malachi? Do you think do you even think about Malachi at the time?
The thought of my son Malachi was just running through my head during the whole process.
Okay.
Because he was the only one in the house.
Right.
So the thought of that was one thought. But then me being unconscious, when I'm finally able to come out of the sheet, and I'm looking at my entire house in my yard or wherever it was.
Right. It was everywhere.
The first thing I did was I jumped up.
Okay.
And I yelled my son's name.
All right.
Malachi. Where's Malachi? That was the first thing I said out of my mouth.
Right.
And by that time, you have my neighbors, who were in my part of the neighborhood, running towards me.
Yeah.
By this time, I'm standing up.
Yeah.
So they're like, was anybody else in the house?
Yeah.
And I'm like, where's my son? I gotta find my son now. And they like, your son was in the house. And I'm like, yeah, he was in the house. Where is he? Okay. He's nowhere around right here.
Wow.
So the neighbors were trying to calm me down because I was in a state of shock.
Yeah.
At that point, adrenaline, I'm bleeding from this part of my head, which I had a knot on and still got a little scar.
Okay.
But to be able to come out of that and just automatically, where's my son? Where's my son?
Correct.
Where's my son?
Correct.
It was the fear as a father, as a parent, as a man, you know, of we have to find him.
We got to find him. Now, so as the news reported, Malachi was thrown 300 feet away from the house.
As if it was like a football field.
As if it was like a football field. Yeah. Now, we both live out in that area.
Yeah, I know.
We see where they're cutting down trees. Yeah. They're cutting down everything. Mm-hmm. At what point did you know Malachi was in the woods?
So this plays out like a movie. So when I finally got up and I'm going hysterical and I'm saying I need my son. I need my son. Find my son.
Okay.
That may have carried on for maybe 25 to 30 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, because we got to think. First, we're up. If the neighbors are running towards me, they're calling 911. I'm telling one neighbor, call my wife. She needs to get home. Then all of this is just happening. Everything's happening at the same time. So it's at least, it had to be 20, 25 minutes. I'm going to just give it that.
Yeah.
Because when my wife pulled up, Malachi still hadn't been found.
Right.
She works 10 or 15 minutes from, I'll say 10 minutes from where our house was.
Okay.
So by the time she pulls up, she has her moment of collapsing in the neighbor's arms, looking at the house be ripped to shreds, destroyed.
Yes. All in
so it's a moment of her having her experience.
Okay.
Then it's them holding her up, and then I'm on the ground vomiting, you know, because it was a lot. It was adrenaline. It was mud. It was pouring down still.
Right. Yes.
So it was raining. Like it's just like And I had on a cut off shirt. So it's just. And then me and her lock eyes. She runs towards me. we hug and we're both yelling our son's name.
Right.
So then by that time, the paramedics or the ambulance, fire trucks are coming.
Yes. Yes.
Then we hear, we found Malachi back in the woods.
Yeah.
It was that far away from the actual house.
Yes.
And when they said they found Malachi, they said he's breathing. So we were like, okay, he's breathing.
What a relief.
That was the relief of him breathing.
Okay.
But then, you know, when they said he's breathing, the paramedics and they all run to his aid, right? But when we seen him, me and my wife seen him on the stretcher.
Right.
The good sign of him screaming and hollering was a good sign.
Right.
Because at least he wasn't just not saying anything.
Yeah, not saying
Because if he
anything.
wasn't yelling
Vegetable
or screaming,
steak,
if it was vegetable, that would have been the issue.
That would have been
Then, you know, with that being said, with him hollering and yelling and screaming, me and my wife was hysterical as well.
Yeah.
So as they were putting him in the ambulance, they're like, okay, we gotta rush him to the hospital.
Right.
But we were trying to like jump in the ambulance, and they were like, no, Tray, you have a head injury. You're bleeding. You have a knot on your head.
Okay.
That's something that we have to pay attention to as well.
Okay.
So it was another ambulance that came for me.
Wow.
So it's like, oh, I forgot that
Yeah.
I woke up under my house
Yeah.
and I had an injury.
And I mean literally under the house.
Under my house. You know, it was bricks. It was the refrigerator. If my head would have been anywhere close to the nail that was beside me or the brick that maybe I escaped from being wrapped in the sheets.
Right.
It's
so many things that could have happened. But
it's so many things that could have happened. But like you said, by the grace of God, I'm able to speak about it. But after that, we get in the ambulance. My wife thinks she's getting in the ambulance with Kai.
Okay.
So we're riding to the ambulance. We're riding in the ambulance. We go to Piedmont. They took me to Piedmont, Henry County Hospital.
Okay.
That's where they were initially supposed to take Malachi.
Okay.
But once we got there, Malachi was flown to Grady.
Right.
Because they said his injuries were trauma. It was way realer than mine. And when he goes to Grady, we sitting in there, they treating me for the injury. I may have been discharged maybe 2 hours later.
Wow.
So I get discharged 2 hours later.
Yeah.
The doctors are still corresponding with us on the phone when it comes to Malachi.
Okay.
My sister-in-law, Rayhana, rushes to Malachi. My Aunt Vonnie rushes to Malachi where he's at, while me and Aisha are with me at Piedmont.
Okay.
But by the time I got discharged, it might have been like 8 o'clock.
Gotcha.
So it was still a little light outside. So when we went back, we actually had to go back to the house because Aisha had left her truck there.
Okay.
We rode in the ambulance.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it was parked in the neighbor's driveway. Like, okay, we'll see y'all whenever y'all get back to get the truck. We had to get the truck so we can get to our son.
Man. Now, going through that, man. What a wild experience. You talked about your neighbors.
Yeah.
You talked about your neighbors.
Yeah, all of y'all.
How they immediately ran to the cause, and I believe the neighbors were like the first responders.
They were.
They performed in the first responding nature. What did that mean to you?
Man.
I mean, we're not saying we in Beverly Hills. We're not saying that we the the boule, none of that.
Yeah.
But what does it mean to have neighbors that ran to the cause, that said, hey, you know what? We gotta protect our own. We gotta stand by our brother right here.
Love thy neighbor is a serious term.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
if it ain't never been more serious in the world, it's serious to me and Aisha and Malachi right now. But it meant a lot, man, because if it wasn't for them,
Okay.
you know, I don't know if we would have survived it like how it is now. I don't know if my son would have been found. But I can't really say that because I think I would have searched if nobody was there, of course. But just the assistance of y'all, our neighbors,
Right.
like saying, okay, we gonna find your son. That's all y'all kept saying.
Yeah, that's
we
it.
gonna find
That's
your
it.
son. We gonna find your son.
Yeah.
And my son was found. So even me speaking out, you know, even being on the podcast, being in television, in the network, in news media.
Yeah.
If you notice, my neighbors are the first thing
That come out your
I
mouth.
say.
Absolutely.
Like my neighbors they saved my son's life.
Yes.
They got my son to where he needed to go for his life to be saved through the grace of God.
Yes, sir.
So it mean a lot to me, man. And what it did too was it brought us together.
Yes, sir.
And it almost made us, not almost, but it really made us understand that we need each other. You know what I'm saying? We need each other. Sometimes I think when you're living around the neighborhood, somebody like myself who's in the business, you're in the business.
Yes, sir.
It's a lot of people that got a lot of different things going on. We may not necessarily, talk or see each other like that. Or if we see each other in passing, it's always what's up, it's love.
Right.
But to honestly, for a tragedy like that to bring us together.
Yes, sir.
That brought us together, and it changed the neighborhood.
Man.
It changed the energy. It's a lot of our neighbors right now saying that they in therapy right now.
Yeah.
Just off of still living in the reality of that nightmare.
Of that nightmare.
That
it's a
traumatic
nightmare.
disaster. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're gonna go. We're gonna go to a commercial break real quick.
Okay.
Because we got sponsors that
for sure,
that
brother.
do their thing, man.
For sure.
But we're gonna come right back. We got
Okay.
Tray Chaney of The Wire.
Yeah, man.
Life After the Storm, Game Changers Magazine, Game Changers Media Network, Voices of the Village podcast. Where change starts with conversation. You guys stay tuned in.
Justice and peace and equality. Now the world they will see. That's why